I'm Ali Sweeney, and it is Monday already. I'm so happy to have you here. I want to encourage you to open up your chat, to get something to write with, something to write on, because we'll make this interactive today. I want to hear your questions, but I also going to give you some things to think about and some things to write about as we go along. And we're just going to get our week started. So, mindset matters. It's really about knowing, what is in your mind. What are you thinking about? What are you feeling? So that's where I wanted to start today. I just want you to open up your chat and give me one word about how you're feeling this Monday morning. It was just a full moon yesterday. I don't know if anybody caught the moon last night, but it was just beautiful here. I'm in Denver, so it was beautiful here. And this full moon is all about owning your truth. So, for those of you just joining in, I want you to pop one word about how you're feeling into the chat this morning, just to get us started. What is in your body? What is the emotion that you are feeling? And pop it in there. I'm feeling excited. I really like the Monday mornings that I get to do Mindset Matters. So that's me today, is just excited. But pop that in there. Also get something to write with and something to write on so that we can get going today. Oh, and I've got a so-so in the chat. I understand that it's Monday. Mondays can be like that, but it's great to know where you are, right? That's what we want to, so much about mindset is meeting yourself where you are first before you can change it. So, when you just say, like, it's so, it makes sense. It's Monday morning, right? But thanks for chiming in. What we are talking about on Mindset Matters today is a book called The Four Agreements. It looks like this. It's a tiny little book. Of course, I don't know how to make it. There we go. It was written by a man named Don Miguel Ruiz, and it's full of Toltec wisdom. Now, the Toltecs were a group of people in southern Mexico that came together to explore and conserve spiritual knowledge and practices from what they call the ancients. So, what I love about this book, and we are all of Mindset Matters, there's 4 weeks in February, and the Four Agreements is the name of this book. And so for each week in February, we are going to talk about one of the agreements in this book. And what I love about the Four Agreements is that they're simple to remember, but they can be kind of complex to put into practice. So I'm just reading the chat here. We've got a bit overwhelmed with the day ahead. Oh my gosh, you're working till 9 o'clock tonight. Okay, that's a lot. Rachel says that this book is on her shelf. She loves it. She's tried to share it with her 13-year-old, but she's not interested. I think there are ways to get kids interested in this. Maybe not in the words of Don Miguel Ruiz, but there certainly are ways. I think a lot of times our kids are actually ahead of us on this. I'm always kind of amazed with what my kids understand that I had to learn. Okay, so let's see. What I want to do is, since this is the first week, I want to introduce all four of the agreements just quickly. So hopefully you can see my screen. And these are the four agreements. So today we are working with be impeccable with your word. So we are going to talk about that more today. It's about saying only what you mean. And then next week, you'll work on the agreement, don't take anything personally. This one, I would have to say, changed my life. This idea that what other people do is not as a result of who you are or what you've done kind of changed everything in my perceptions. The third one is don't make assumptions. John Murphy will be bringing us that. And this is about how our brain categorizes things very quickly to make it easy and efficient for us. And so this is really about bringing curiosity and how how to challenge some of those assumptions that we make that might be based on old information or things that aren't really true for you anymore. And then I'll be back at the end of the month with the last agreement, always do your best. And the reason that I like this is one that I talk about with my kids a lot, is that the reason I like that one is because uh, some days it's harder to be at your best, right? When you're feeling so-so, when you're feeling overwhelmed, your best is going to be different than on other days when you've had an incredible night's sleep and everything feels like it's going for you. So I'm going to pop into the chat a link to that document that I just showed you. So if you want access to that, so you can kind of be contemplating these agreements this week, that's awesome. I encourage you to check it out. Just maybe print it, put it in your office or where you can see it. Keep it top of mind for this month because it'll be fun and interesting to dive into these and see what changes in your life as a result. So, but today we are focusing on be impeccable with your word. So what this means, how Don Miguel Ruiz breaks it down is impeccable means to not be against. So in this agreement, you would never speak against yourself. And that's easy to think about in terms of your own body and your own way, right? Who you are. I know that for me, there often, before I came to this agreement, have kind of a nasty little voice in my head that is anything but impeccable, right? It doesn't often tell me the truth. It's often saying something judgmental and harsh. But Don Miguel Ruiz, he takes it to that level. He wants you to be impeccable with yourself, to not go against yourself with your word. But he also takes it to another spiritual connection in that we are, take the view that we are all one. And so when we're all one, then we can't speak against the other in the same way. So in that way, if you're speaking against another, then you're also speaking against yourself. So that takes it to the next level. So if you feel like you've got it, that you're no longer speaking against yourself inside your own head, then see if you can move it to the outside world. And if you feel like you're still struggling with that nastiness inside you, then start there. I have a quote from Don Miguel Ruiz, and he says in this book, he says, "The word is not just a sound or a symbol. The word is a force. It is the power you have to express and communicate, to think, and thereby to create the events in your life." So I've got a poll for you this morning, and I'm going to launch it so you can start to answer it. And I want you to think about this. The idea of the word, so whether it's spoken, whether it's written, whether it's silent inside your head or it comes out of your mouth. Have you ever thought of that before as a force that creates your life? Yeah, and we've got some people who are not new to this concept. Some others who think about it sometimes. I think it's really kind of amazing to put that sort of power with your communication. That with our word, with our thoughts, with our whatever we write, that we are actually creating our lives. And when we put that kind of power with the word, can you see how important it is to be truthful, to be powerful, to be impeccable, right? To be honest with your word, to only speak that which is true. It's really, I think that this is the hardest of the 4 agreements. So I always think it's interesting that he starts his book with this one. It could ease us into it a little bit. But here, I'm going to share those results with you. We've got sometimes and some very intentionally, which is wonderful. If there are ways that you have, if there are tools that you use to be impeccable with your word, please share them with us in the chat. I wanted to give you an example from my life about how this works, or what I've noticed in my life, let's say. And I used to go to meditation retreats all the time. Before I am who I am now, I had this very crazy life, very overwhelmed most of the time, young little kids. And so instead of meditating every day, I would go and take like a weekend away. And it was just this respite that I would have. And one time I went to a meditation retreat that had a silent portion to the retreat. And so I don't know if any of you have ever gone to a meditation retreat, but a silent retreat means you don't speak to anyone. It can be, some people do them for 7 days. This one was just a couple of days. And it was right at the end of COVID. So we were still masking somewhat. We were still not masking sometimes. And this particular retreat had like a joint dining hall. So you would kind of walk in masked, and then you'd get your food, and then you'd take your mask off to eat. And I had been silent for a day, probably. And I sat down to eat, and I took my mask off, and I kind of put it in my lap. And the next thing I know, I dropped my mask on the floor. And I leaned over and I whispered, "Idiot." And I was saying it to myself. But it was so amazing to hear it because I hadn't spoken anything in days. And here I was, the first word was going to be idiot. And it just highlighted how that voice inside my head was really operating, right? All I had done was drop my mask. But that was the house that I grew up in, was judgmental like that. And so it took some undoing to stop talking to myself like that. So I don't know if that resonates with any of you, but I want you to call attention. I want you to see if you can set an intention this week until the next Mindset Matters to notice how you talk to yourself. All right, you don't have to go to a silent retreat to notice, but I want you to notice where those words in your head are coming from. And are they really coming from the truth, or are they coming from maybe some people who talk to you that way instead of how you could really talk to yourself? And what Don Miguel Ruiz says in the agreements is that our opportunity is to really to talk to ourselves with peace and love. And just imagine how that could change your outlook, change your mindset, change how you feel about yourself and how you feel about the relationships you have with other people. I'm going to check our chat here for a second. Yeah, okay. So Mike is offering one of the tools that he uses for being impeccable with his words. And really for him, it's about commitment. So he's not going to say it unless he can follow through. And that's how the universe knows he's serious. I love that, Mike. Thanks for chiming in. Okay. So, this doesn't let us off the hook for accountability, right? When we speak to ourselves with love and with peace, if we genuinely make a mistake that's worth being held accountable for, then it's not about letting yourself off the hook and just pretending like that didn't happen. Oh, Carla, I think I'm sorry, maybe that just came to me. So in the chat, they're saying they can't see everyone. So if you're chatting, maybe just make sure you've got the everyone setting instead of the host and panelist settings. And I'll try to read them out so if somebody makes a mistake. But anyway, what I was trying to say was that in accountability, what we regularly do, or what I have done in my life, and see if you do this, is that I'll make a mistake And then I will continue to replay it in my mind over and over and over again. And so, what this agreement says is once is enough. Imagine that. Imagine if you let your energy come back to you after you had held yourself accountable for the mistake once. I think I know I would have a lot more energy in my life if I was able to fully hold that all the time. So, this is another opportunity for you if you do make a mistake, or if someone else in your life makes a mistake, can you let it go after you've held them accountable once? I know what I'm talking about can feel like it's unusual because we're patterned, to kind of hammer it home. But um, especially with our kids, I know my kids, I've got teenagers too. Was it Rachel who said that? Yeah, I have teenagers too. I'll get like into the lecture zone and they're like, enough. I heard you the first time. So just imagine that voice coming in for you, right? Like, enough. I heard you the first time you told me that I didn't do it right. So, and what we're really building here this week is your capacity to be the objective observer in your life, right? So, a lot of times, what we're voicing inside our heads, what we're in, even what we're saying with our word, can be unconscious. So, what we're doing this week is bringing awareness to the words that we are using. And as we build that objective observer muscle, it'll be easier to interrupt the pattern and be impeccable with your word. That's why meditation can be so valuable, but also just pausing and noticing how you're feeling, right? Because how you're feeling can impact the words you want to use, right? If you're really angry, you might speak with anger. And that might be valuable and helpful. A lot of times anger helps us say the words that couldn't be said otherwise. But it's about noticing whether those are specifically the words that you want to use. Or are you trying to be hurt or are you trying to hurt someone because you're coming from a hurt place? All things to think about this week. And that brings me to drama. So, I want you to picture we all have fight or flight responses, okay? And our words can be related to that. So, our words can continue the cycle of drama in our lives. So, I want you to imagine this scenario, right? We're somewhere where there's gazelles and lions. And a lion starts to hunt a pack of gazelles. Their fight or flight response kicks in. They go running, right? Off, and a lion gets one of them, and then the herd stops running. And they go back to grazing because the fight or flight response for all of us is intended to be about 15 minutes long. And the reason I'm telling you this story about gazelles and lions is because they don't do what humans do. When they start grazing again, right? They don't pop their heads back up and say, "Did you see that? Did you see what just happened? That lion was chasing us and da 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 da." And that is the drama of your word that I want you to catch yourself in this week, is if you continue to play out that fight or flight cycle and use your word to start the cycle again. Because what happens is you create a feedback loop where it's really hard to get out of that fight or flight response. So think of those gazelles and whether or not it's worth poking your head up or whether you can stay in the calm and peace that's available to you because maybe there isn't an active threat happening. So, okay. I mentioned we're this time is flying by. So I want to get to a meditation, but I also want you to write a prompt in your journal. And we're just going to spend a couple moments here. But in or on your piece of paper, I want you to write I want you to tell yourself how wonderful you are, how great you are. I want you to tell yourself how much you love yourself. And there's another quote here from Don Miguel Ruiz. He says, "How much you love yourself and how you feel about yourself are directly proportionate to the quality and integrity of your word." So, what we're doing is building back this truth of you start at amazing, you start at incredible. And maybe there were things that happened in your life that made it feel like you weren't. And so we want to bring that back and start to talk to ourselves with that love and gratitude and peace. So just for a moment, give yourself a few props. Just write it down. Nobody else is going to see it. I'm not going to ask you to share it. If this is, and I want you to be the objective observer here. If this is difficult for you, or if this is easy for you, I want you to notice that. And if this is hard for you, I want you to imagine what you would say to a friend, a dear, dear friend. What would you say? And let that dear, dear friend be you. Fantastic. If you were able to get out a few words that were complimentary to yourself, bravo. Our society doesn't always support that, but I'm a huge fan. So, way to go. I'm proud of you for being honest and being truthful about how incredible you really are. I find it's much more easier to utter those idiot words, right? So, maybe you've contributed, maybe you've spoken to yourself like I have, and you can start to notice that this week and let that go. Let's meditate because we've got a few minutes left and your mindset matters. And I want to send you into the day feeling like you can be impeccable with your word. So when you're ready, I want you to close your eyes and find your body this morning. Where's the top of your head? Notice the tips of your fingers. Notice the space between the top of your head and the tips of your fingers through your shoulders, down your arms, into your hands. Notice your heart and your belly. What do your hips feel like today? How about your knees and your ankles and your toes? You're just bringing some acknowledgement to the body. See if you can find one deep, big breath. Get it all the way into the bottom of your belly. And one big exhale. I want you to bring your attention to the center of your head, right behind your eyes, between your ears. So imagine you could bring all of your attention there. And if someone else pops into your awareness, I want you to imagine a bus pulling up. And I want you to imagine that person or people getting on the bus. Because for the rest of today, for this week, I want you to hear only you, not all the other people in your life. Let them get on the bus. And then the bus is going to pull away. You're going to give it a little wave. Let this space, the center of your head, be just for you. And imagine that you could set this space at peace and love. Maybe being impeccable with your word by focusing on how you use it, how you use the power of your voice or of your word with love and peace. Now, if there have been times in your life that you went against yourself with your word by either speaking in judgment to yourself or holding yourself accountable again and again and again, consider offering yourself forgiveness. Say, please forgive me for what I did not know, the power of my word. And then imagine that you could offer yourself some love and compassion. So, what if you said, I love you for, and fill in the blank? I love you for coming to Mindset Matters today. I love you for learning about the power of your word. You fill in the blank. I love you for. Consider how good that feels. These words that you are saying to yourself. You are a needed and unique part of this world at this time. You came here to be here now in this wild, wild world. We need your word. We need your voice. We need you to be impeccable with your word and get to know your truth for you, not for anyone else. Because the word is a force. It's the power you have to express and communicate, to think, and thereby create your life. Bring your attention to your heart and imagine a vibration you'd like to experience for the rest of the day. Maybe it's love, maybe it's peace, maybe it's something else like freedom or truth. And imagine it as a spark in your heart that grows to your whole body, up to the top of your head, out to your fingertips, down to your hips, and eventually to your knees and your toes. Notice how this feels just after a few moments of presence. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and stretch your body. Yay! Good job, everybody. I am putting my contact information in the chat. If you want to look at what's creating some of the little voices that you speak to yourself with, that's what I do in my day job. So give me a ring and we'll sort it out together. And we will be here next week with Mindset Matters. Danielle will be here with the next of the 4 agreements. So, which was don't take anything personally. So, if you're interested in that, I encourage you to sign up and come next week. Get the book if you don't have it. And I'll see you next time. I am so grateful for you and that you are going to be the one who puts more peace and love back in this world with your word. So many thanks for coming. I appreciate you. Bye-bye.